The circus continues with Clown Carney at the head of the helm right now. It's so funny, when you start thinking the fact that this guy has now been the prime minister for a week, at least. I call him an interim prime minister. I can't even use the name, prime minister when I refer to Mark Carney. We'll just call him, Mark, okay? Because Mark here really doesn't have a clue on what the country truly needs. But he's pretty sure that his narrative when he's talking to the media, that he's got everybody just absolutely amazed. Because I'll tell you, he comes up with some real doozies. When he's sitting there talking about things from an economic perspective, he sits there and says, well, I'm a former, head of the Bank of Canada, I was governor of the Bank of, England, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, okay. And yeah, a lot of people are going to jump up and down and say, hey, he's got a degree. Good for him. Practicality, though, is very important, and actually knowing what you're doing. And, one of the things that the federal government and under Trudeau's watch said for 9 years was that the housing is not a federal responsibility. We had a clip about it last year where you sat there and Justin Trudeau said, no, housing is not a federal responsibility. They leave it to each province and municipality. But what does Mark Carney want to do? Well, you know what? Here we go, smoke and mirrors. Let's see what kind of sunshine he wants to blow up you and I today.
Stable housing, access to housing is the foundation for success. Without housing, it's hard to focus on your future. Without housing, it's hard to start a family. And without housing, we can't build the strongest economy in the G7.
Okay, hang on for a second. Without housing, gee, Mark, without money, we can't have any of it. And he is definitely known as Carbon Tax Carney. And here's the same guy that is sitting there threatening to increase taxes everywhere in Canada, and yet he's trying to sit there and pretend he knows something about housing. Let's see what else he is suggesting.
We need to get housing supply up. In fact, we need to double housing supply on an annual basis. We need to get that supply up so we can bring costs down. We need to build more at a faster pace. So my government will stimulate innovation and productivity and sustainability by promoting new technologies such as modular and prefabricated homes that speed up completion times, lower costs for builders and buyers.
All right. I've had enough of him talking about housing. Okay, let's tear this thing down, okay? First and foremost, he's the guy that came out last week and said he wants to turn around and get foreign buyers to be involved in BC, in the housing market, and have their mortgages backed by CMHC. First and foremost, Mark, they're not Canadians that you want to sit there and employ. The other thing that he mentions is double the housing productivity. Well, last time I checked, the former Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland there, was sitting there bragging about by 2030, we're going to knock out 4 million homes. Mark, if you double our production, the best we're going to get is about 400,000 homes a year here in Canada. And by the way, to get that, you're going to have to be in power for the next 8-9 years. Not going to happen, sport. But the one thing that I think we need to take a hard look at is Carney's idea of modular homes. Now, just so you know, his connections with China would probably help because they have a lot of modular homes there. And something tells me that this is just Mark trying to influence Canada to be, guess, China. You got it, because that's one of the groups that he is closely knit with. And if he thinks that that's going to work in Canada, you're crazy. The idea of some of your home suggestions are way out to lunch. There are builders there that are getting restricted, Mark. It's not a federal situation. You got to give the power to the provinces, to the municipalities, and wake them up so we actually get construction done. Now, of course, it's not just housing Mark is sitting there spouting off about. He continues to turn around and say, oh yeah, we've got a crisis here. What does that mean, Mark? What are you trying to set us up for? Let's take a look.
We're in an economic crisis that's brought on I'm going to answer the question. Brought on by the tariffs that have been put on Canada, actual and prospective. One of the challenges.
The economic crisis was brought on by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and you were his advisor at the time.
Okay, so let's stop it there
find-
for a second, okay? The reporter who's actually calling Carney out, and I'm surprised that right now the reporter's not in jail, because you're not allowed to turn around and say anything negative to Mark Carney. If it's not his narrative, he will not talk to reporters. But here's the funny thing is, the reporter mentioned that our financial crisis is due to Justin Trudeau, and Mark Carney was actually his advisor, which is true. All 100% true. And the truth is that the actual tariffs have not had a huge adverse effect yet. So why is Canada in a financial crisis? You're right. 10 years of Liberal government have absolutely destroyed Canada, and this guy is the head advisor to the guy that was heading it all up. So before Carney gets to sit there and say, no, it's the tariffs, you're full of shit, Mark, okay? We know it. You're the one, and it's your Liberal government. And by the way, you haven't changed the actual people in the party. You still have 90% of Trudeau's cabinet as your cabinet. So you sitting there saying, oh no, we're changing. You're not. You just flipped hats. It's Trudeau to Carney now, and that's it. Let's see what else he has as an excuse.
These people did not create that problem.
I certainly, hey, nobody in Canada created that problem.
Hang on.
Nobody
Whoa,
in
whoa,
Canada-
whoa, 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 whoa. Ding, ding, ding. He's such an asshole. Nobody in Canada created that problem? Wanna bet? Here's the thing, Mark. Have you talked to President Trump yet? You're sitting there pointing fingers about, the situation with tariffs, and yet you made it very clear you're not reaching out to the guy that's going to impose tariffs. You're doing nothing but sitting on your hands and pretending you are the king of Canada. What else did you say, Mark?
Created that problem. The U.S. government has decided to put tariffs on all of its closest allies. All of its closest allies. I wouldn't for a moment suggest that anyone in Canada is the cause of this. What our responsibility is to take action to react to a different world that we're in. That's what my job is.
I'll take that as a no then.
No, you'll take that as a very comprehensive answer to your question.
Wow, what a condescending asshole. I mean, he sits there, hey, Mark, you need the press. Look at you. You know what? You sat there and you just turned around and said, no, you're not taking the answer the way I gave it, so you have to take it my way. Wow, we got to take it your way, Mark. That's exactly what you're going to do to Canadians. Take it Mark's way. Wow. This guy is such a narcissist. It's unbelievable. Hey, Canada, it's time to wake up. Okay? And when he sits there and says nobody to blame, that's because his predecessor, that's right, Trudeau, he can't blame him. They're intertwined, these two. Okay? So we basically have 2.0 right now, but he's not going to throw Trudeau under the bus because that's going to make him look bad. At this point, you know what, Mark? Just go away. Yeah, we hear, and yeah, some of you are going to jump up and down because Mark himself has not confirmed that he's going to be calling for an election. Yes, we've got all sorts of news outlets saying that on Sunday he's going to call for an election. Okay, but the truth is he truly going to go through with it? Okay, will he call the election? Yeah, probably. Will we actually get to an election date of potentially April the 28th, who knows, May the 2nd, somewhere in that time frame? Is it actually going to happen? I don't know. Right now, none of us can trust anything that comes out of his mouth. Take the blame, Mark. Take the knee. Do what's necessary. But the Liberal government is the one that has put Canada in a financial bind. And if you don't want to admit it, too bad. That's not what we see as Canadians. And as Canadians, as I wrap it up, you know what? One of the things that I think is very important is that, of course, we've got to watch out for our family, our friends, the next generation, your kids, everything. I think it's really important. But I'd love to hear your take on where we are right now economically. I am a real estate guy. It's one of the things that I find important. But again, any of his narrative when it comes down to real estate, he is so inexperienced. He has no idea. Real estate solutions come at a municipal level, not at a federal level. Mark, stay in your lane. Go back to Britain. Hey, swing by EU. You know what? Go enjoy your life. Stay out of our country because it is ours and it always will be. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Todd C. Slater.